Today I'm presenting on 3 points of contact. So let's dive in right into the presentation. Have you ever stood by a cliff? You ever stood on the edge of a cliff? What's your inclination when you walk up to the edge of the Grand Canyon? I just see that I think it was last week. I don't know if you guys saw that, Brent and Doug, where there was another tourist that fell off the cliff at the Grand Canyon, making 2 or 3 this year, and there were some at Zion, and I think also I think there was one down in the Arches area or Canyonlands where people walked up to cliffs and fell right over. Well, I'm not really that way. When I walk up to a cliff, and I think Doug and Brent have both seen me walk up to the edge of a cliff, I'm not like that. I don't waltz right up to the top. I've been known to sit down because I don't want to fall off of that thing. In today's presentation, we're talking about a cliff, but that cliff may only be 2 or 3 feet or 6 feet high. Some of those common things that we do that can get us into a lot of trouble and get us hurt really bad. So let's talk about that. Slips, trips, and falls are really our number 2 in by total number of claims. That's the second most common cause of a workers' compensation claim, but it is the number 1 cause of cost, the expense that goes along with that. And if the cost is high, what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that this is a bad injury. This tells us that somebody's hurt seriously. They've taken out a knee, they've taken an ankle, they blew a shoulder, or maybe they landed on their head. So slips, trips, and falls are a real concern for us. And so as we look at this, we want to look where a lot of these are happening and where can we prevent this. And really what we find is we have a significant number of serious injuries that happen with people just getting in and out of vehicles, trucks, loaders, backhoes, those types of things. Additionally, we have issues where people are getting in and out of stairs or climbing ladders. These are serious accidents, and a lot of people will say, "Well, I'm only 2 or 3 feet above the ground." Well, a lot of those falls from a short distance can be really serious, and we see that again and again, where an injury from not that high up can cause somebody to have a shoulder injury or a serious head injury. So how do we deal with that? Well, here's another statistic, though. I found that in general industry, people driving trucks, the number 1 cause of injury for truck drivers is getting in and out of their equipment, their trucks. We see other equipment that are out there. You may have seen a road grader out there, a patrol that has a hanging cable ladder. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to climb one of those things, but it's quite the trapeze act to try to climb one of the cable steps. I tried to find a picture of that, and I know I've got one somewhere that I've taken, but I couldn't find it. But what it is just basically two heavy pieces of cable that have some steps that go across. And most of the time, these things are bent. They make them out of cable because they get hit and damaged quite often. And so they're just kind of hanging there. But they get bent. And it's a trick to get in and out of those things. So road graders, loaders, backhoes, boom lifts, climbing up into a scissor lift or a boom lift is a feat, and one that's a really common cause of injury for us is getting in and out of trailers, climbing up on a flatbed trailer or getting down from that. We see dozens of injuries every year, and many of those are serious. 12% of our slips and falls occur with people getting in and out of their equipment, but 1/4 of our total losses come from that specific activity. That's a big deal when we're seeing that percentage of the serious accidents, because that's where the dollars are, comes from getting in and out of vehicles. Pretty simple thing that we do every day. How do we make it safer? How do we make this simple act of getting in and out of a vehicle safer? Well, it's through 3 points of contact. Hey, Doug, if you could, it looks like Captain Greensides is having trouble getting in. Can you send him a message and help him get in? We use the 3 points of contact. What does that mean? Well, you've really got 4 appendages that you're going to use when you get in and out of a vehicle: 2 hands and 2 feet. And our goal is to always have 3 of those in contact with the vehicle. And not just in contact with the vehicle, but in contact with a surface that is intended for climbing. So a handhold, a step, or a foothold. Maybe if you're really good with your teeth and you've got a rope to hang on, we can use that as one of our 3 points of contact. But the reality is I want to be using 1 hand and 2 feet, or 2 hands and 1 foot. And whenever one appendage is moving, those 3 others need to be anchored. And you go, well, that's kind of silly. Well, that's how we ensure that we have a safe climb, is simply being in contact. Just imagine trying to climb a ladder with just your feet. How would you feel if you only were using your feet to climb that ladder? Well, most of us would feel pretty unstable and unsure of ourselves, because, wow, if I just get off balance, I'm falling off of this thing. So think about that. Can I always keep those 3 points of contact with the equipment when I've got that one thing moving, whether it's a hand or a foot? Okay. Here's a couple of things to think about as well. Preparing to climb. Get ready. Always face the vehicle. Why is that? Well, our body and the equipment used to climb in and out of that vehicle are designed specifically for that task. And you think about it. If I'm, a lot of these trucks have a recessed step. Think about turning around and trying to go down that backwards. Your body's not configured to fit that. So always face the vehicle. Don't turn around and go face first out of that vehicle. Face the vehicle. Make sure your handholds are in good condition. Make sure that they're there. Sometimes they've been removed. Sometimes they weren't there to start with, and we may need to install those. Don't use things to climb that aren't intended to climb on. Don't climb on the lugs of the tires. Don't climb on the hubs in the middle of the wheels, because they're not designed to climb, and we might slip and fall and hurt ourselves in the process. Make sure that we've got appropriate footwear and handwear. Some gloves may make it more difficult to get a hold of the handhold, so it might be the best idea to take those gloves off to climb that piece of equipment. Make sure your footwear is designed for the task. Make sure it has good lugs and they're not really slippery. Cowboy boots are, as much as we may like those things, they many times have a really slick sole. If you've got a pair of those, throw them in the closet and get a pair that has a good lugged sole on the bottom, so you've got some grip there. Make sure that we clean the mud and grease from our feet and our hands before we climb up to prevent those slips and falls. Don't ever climb with anything in your hands. You may have a drink that you're putting into the vehicle. Well, you can reach in and set that in on maybe where your feet go. Set that in place. Alight the vehicle, and then grab your drink or whatever it is the object is that you're taking in there. But try to keep your hands free and take your time. This is the cause of many problems, many injuries that we have, or we're just in a big hurry. This next slide, as I was putting this presentation together, it took me back to when I was a kid, and I remember this incident happening. It was a tractor, just like I went online and found a picture of an International 806 tractor. And I was out busily working on the farm one day, and I pulled into the farmyard, and I was in a hurry, and I went to get off that tractor, and I didn't jump, but I was moving a lot faster than I needed to. And you see those 2 steps that help you to get up onto that tractor. I stepped on that bottom step, and I missed it. I hit it, but my toe slipped off of that, and my shin made contact with that iron step and drug all the way down. And it peeled all the skin off of my shin, and it took over a year to heal. And it was probably the most painful thing I've experienced in my life. And I've been through some stuff. And so I think back to that, and it wasn't a great step on the tractor. You know, I would definitely design something better if I were an engineer putting that together. But the big causal factor there was I was in a hurry. I was wanting to get off of that tractor too quickly, and I caused myself an injury that still makes me cringe to think about. So take your time when you're doing this. If we say, if we go back to that statistic, that the number one cause of injury for truck drivers is getting in and out of their trucks, well, that's probably the riskiest thing that they do then. So we should take the time and do that task appropriately, maintain that 3 points of contact. Just a couple other thoughts. Try not to use the steering wheel or hand controls that adjust the bucket, or maybe on a forklift that raise and lower the boom. Try not to use those, because that can make a really unsafe condition. Most modern equipment is going to have appropriate handholds in place and footholds as well. So make sure you're using those things and use those 3 points of contact. When you get out of a vehicle, just reverse the order, but make sure that we're doing it appropriately. Remember, we talked about we always face the vehicle. Well, that goes the same when we're getting out of the vehicle as well. But first, make sure that we turn around and exit the way that we went into the vehicle. Use the handholds, use your 3 points of contact, and don't jump from the vehicle. Well, I've only got one step left. I'm just going to jump down. Many injuries happen there. We may be jumping onto uneven ground. We may already have an issue with a knee or whatever. Make sure that we're using the gear the way that we should. Some places, like a trailer, there may not be a handhold. There may not be a foothold. There may not be a good way to climb up onto this vehicle. Well, there is a fix for everything. And it's pretty easy to go online and find. They have some portable steps that will go onto a semi-trailer and make it safe and easy to get in and out of that. Other things, if it's something that we're using on a regular basis, we can construct some steps that will allow us to safely get in and out of those vehicles. Sometimes we may have to just say, you know what, I can reach this with something, so I don't have to climb in and out, or we'll come up with a better way to get in and out of that. We talked about equipment, so equipment was a big thing. Stairs are also a big thing. So when we're using the stairs, think about the 3 points of contact. How do I maintain that? Well, I'm probably going to be using handrails, so I maintain those 3 points of contact. Now, we might look a little silly on the stairs, but think of it as an overall practice that I'm going to try to maintain my control by staying in contact with the handrail. Avoid and take a look at our equipment. There, as we go around and do risk assessments, a lot of times in shops they may have a mezzanine and there's a stairway that goes up to there, but there may not be handrails on that. When you think about that, a lot of times going to that mezzanine up and back, you may be carrying some equipment. Well, that handrail becomes much more important when you've got something in one of your hands. Avoid loads that block your vision. Make sure you can see the stairs. If I've got an elevator, use the elevator. If you're carrying some objects and there's an elevator there, use it. Make sure there's no obstacles stored on the steps. Don't store anything there, because somebody may be coming down and not see that and cause them to take a nasty fall. Go one stair at a time. Don't take 3 or 4, and don't miss that last step. Ladders are also areas where we can have some real issues, and we want to maintain our 3 points of contact from ladders. Don't carry things in your hands. Well, you say, "Oh, I'm going up this ladder to drill something in, to tighten up that piece of fascia or something like that, and so I'm going to take my drill or my hammer up with me. Well, that's what tool belts are made for. So put your tools on a belt. You don't have a belt, you may have a backpack, you may have something. If I'm climbing up and down this ladder, let's put our equipment in something but our hands, because we want to maintain those 3 points of contact. Make sure the ladder's in good shape. Make sure our shoes are clean. Make sure our hands are clean and not greasy and slippery. Don't jump off the ladder. Well, there's only 1 or 2 rungs left. Well, that's how we can we blow our knees out or roll our ankles. Don't skip the bottom rung. A couple other things. This is one that we see all too regularly, and it drives me crazy when I see a claim come in, was standing on a chair to reach something on a high shelf. Well, if we need to reach something on high shelves, we should have a step ladder available. You think about that. A chair or a 5-gallon bucket or anything like that doesn't have the ability to have 3 points of contact. And so let's get the appropriate tool for the job. And if that means we go out and buy a 3-step ladder, let's do that. Okay. And when we're dealing with ladders, make sure that you're not standing on the top 2 rungs of those ladders. Those are not designed for that task. I have to keep plugging my platform ladder. I've said this before on here. I've been remodeling an old house, and I purchased a ladder that has a platform at the top. It allows you to reach to 10 feet height, which is perfect for this house that I'm in. And you can turn around, and you can feel really confident in working in those areas. A question here. So if we need 3 steps to get to the upper shelf, this means getting 5-step ladder, or in order to not be on the top 2 rungs. Yes, correct. Debbie, it's good to see you. I haven't talked to you for a while, so I'm glad to see you on the webinar today. So yeah, absolutely. Buy the correct tool for the job. And if I can't step on those top 2 rungs, but I got to get higher, I need a different ladder for the task. Threw this in here just because we see a significant number of injuries from fire apparatus. People climbing in and out of fire trucks, ambulances, different apparatus that way. We've even seen a few where people have fallen off of the top of a truck. They were up there accessing hoses or other equipment that might have been there, and instead of maintaining 3 points of contact, they were walking along there, kind of doing the tightrope walk, and there are sometimes cargo nets and other things there and hoses to hold that apparatus in place, and got their feet tangled up and took a nasty tumble off the top of a fire engine. That can be really, really dangerous. Same rules go for fire apparatus, and whatever it is that we're dealing with, if I'm off the ground even 1 step, I need to be maintaining those 3 points of contact. All right. So to summarize, falls are a significant cause of injury for all of our members out there in the state, and they've been responsible for some significant injuries, and occasionally a near fatal injury. And we're doing this. All of us are making, whether it be just a 1 or 2 step climb, even going up and down stairs, we're all doing this, and we're at risk. So let's take a look at our at how we operate on a day-to-day basis, and put 3 points of contact into our regular day, and how we go about doing that. Use the equipment. A lot of times we'll see people skipping that last step, or they're not using the handholds that are in place. Use that. All right. And make sure you're inspecting your equipment. Make sure it's in good shape. Let's take some action today. All right. I think we got through it. And it looks like pretty much everybody stayed around, so I think everybody must have gotten logged into the audio broadcast. So we'll throw that out to questions right now. If anybody has any questions about this subject, please let me know. It looks like the folks out in Naples have already sent us a joke. So what do you call a noodle with no name? He gave me the answer, and I'm laughing. All right. Not seeing Debbie. It's good to see you on here too. We apologize for the login issues today. We had our provider cause some issues and didn't let us know they were making any changes, and so hopefully we figured that out. And by the way, all that's going to change in the near future, and we're going to be using a different provider, and it'll be a much easier login process from that point. All right. Not seeing questions, but I will give you the answer to the question. Maybe I'll ask Doug and Brent. What do you call a noodle with no name?
No idea.
This is a good one.
I'm not sure I want to know.
I think this is the best one that the folks in Naples have ever come up with. What do you call a noodle with no name? An impasta. Impasta. All right, folks. On that, there was a groan, an audible groan from wherever Debbie is. All right, thanks, Jim and crew out there in Naples. We appreciate everybody out there. Be safe and have a good day.